club right there. That's a great clip, and thank you so much for the people who made that. It's really fun to watch. I could watch it all day. Welcome tonight to the State of the City for 2023. We're here to celebrate 150 years of our city, and it's great to be back in person. So welcome to the community members, council members. We have Tricia Canonico, Mayor Pro Tem Emily Francis. We have Susan Gutowski and Shirley Peel, and a lot of other elected officials and formerly elected. And once I go down that road, I'll leave somebody out. So I am not going to do that. Thank you to, I can't, there'll be so many more. Thank you. Also, welcome staff. And also, it's just a pleasure to be here tonight with Kelly DiMartino, who is our city manager. Just 1 year ago today at the State of the City. We could only say interim, so tonight, congratulations, and it's nice to be here with you.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here, Mayor, and it's great to see all of you. Just so appreciate you coming out to join us. There have been a few things that have changed. Last year, we were talking about, it was the two of us in the basement of City Hall. It felt very different, so we're loving seeing your smiling faces here tonight. As the mayor mentioned, we are celebrating 150 years of municipal services, and it's really fitting that it's this week that we're having the State of the City address, because it was on February 3rd, so this Friday, February 3rd, 1873, when the city was officially incorporated. So timing is good. Yes, so that means we are celebrating our sesquicentennial. She made me say it.
I'm so glad she said that. Well, we're here to celebrate our city services in 150 years, but we also, very much equally importantly, is the people who came together to form the community. I always like to give this quote, so forgive me if you've heard me say it, but I love it because it says, Barney Frank said that government is simply the word we use for the things that we choose together. And boy, have we chosen to do a lot of things together over the last 150 years. So the purpose of tonight is to take a look back, review some highlights of city accomplishments, to share some thoughts on the state of the community today and talk about some recent and red hot items, and also to take a peek into our future.
We thought since we were talking about history, it would be fitting to start with the museum. And last year, the Museum of Discovery celebrated a big milestone. It was its 10th anniversary. Those of you who may not be familiar with the Museum of Discovery, it's really a very unique public-private partnership. I'm looking at a few faces of people in this room, of people who were involved in the early days of creating this. And it brought together the city's History Museum and the Discovery Science Center nonprofit organization to really, again, come together and create a special place of learning for our community. And tonight you're going to see a lot of historic mementos from our historic archive from the museum, and it's just a chance, again, to reflect in really what has grounded us as a community over all of those years. It's also a place, though, where we're creating meaningful connections for the future. And part of the role of the museum moving forward is to be a community convener. The last couple of weeks, we've actually had a chance to experience that. I see Brian Kingsley from Poudre School District here. And the school district hosted a State of Our Youth Summit that brought a lot of community members together to talk about how we respond to the critical needs and the asks. And there were kind of 4 areas that our youth have identified, and one of those is spaces of belonging. And that's something that we're hearing from a lot of our community.
Yeah, definitely belonging and building community is a broad theme for us. And the city has been very intentional about doing this. And one of the tangible ways that we've been doing this is for the first year, the Office of Equity and Inclusion is up and running and is working to foster an inclusive community and build relationships. One of the ways we did that was through our proclamations and resolutions of taking a community-centric approach and taking the proclamations out into the community where the group of the people who are celebrating that proclamation are. We're also bringing people in for community celebration before a proclamation to create a space for people to meet and greet and celebrate. Some of the proclamations that we did this year included Pride, Juneteenth, Hispanic Heritage, Trans Acceptance, and Indigenous Peoples Today. I'm proud to be part of a council, although it's very much long overdue, that finally amended our city code to have fully inclusive language, and it's so important. I'm going to read it to you. Amending the definition of discrimination in the City Code Chapter 13 to, quote, prohibit discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation, gender identity, and gender expression. Thank you also to our Human Relations Commission who brought this forward and your hard work.
Yeah, it is one of many milestones that we know we're going to experience in our equity work. And again, I'm looking at Claudia Menendez here, who's our city's first equity officer. Yes, let's cheer for her. And I was actually just reading an article about that she was quoted in today. And it really reminded us, one of the beautiful gifts that Claudia brings to us is reminding us that our equity work is not something we do separately. It is a part of the work we do as our organization. It should be a part of everything we do. So in the coming year, we're working on a draft equity plan that's going to help focus our work because, as you can imagine, there's so much work to be done in this space, but we're going to have that plan that will really help us focus that work. Part of that is going to continue to be building deep relationships, particularly with our historically underrepresented communities. And one community that we're focusing on is our Native American community. I am happy to say that we have hired an Indigenous community engagement specialist for the first time in the city organization, and we really want to work on rebuilding and building deep and authentic trust with those community members. Yes, that's great. Another area of focus for us is accessibility, again, as we think about all of our services. And we have someone who is helping us in the American with Disability Act to really look at not only all of our facilities, but also all of our digital platforms, and again, make sure that these services are available to all. One of the programs where we have been doing some work is in our Natural Areas and Open Space program, and that is another program that is celebrating a milestone this year, and we actually want to take a minute and show you a video clip from some of the work that's going on there.
The natural areas were relatively few and far between. Finally, we now have this really amazing interconnected green belt of natural areas, which allows both nature to thrive and people to thrive along with them and understand how they interconnect.
I think there's a lot of people that are realizing how access to the outdoors is not equal for everybody. Not everybody has the chance to come get the benefits from being outside. And so I think a lot about how could we make natural areas more accessible to youth of color, to low-income youth. Making sure that every single kid has the opportunity to visit natural areas would be a great goal to have.
What it means for me to be part of the natural areas environment, it is something that's necessary because everybody wants something beautiful to look at or something fun to do. But the biggest problem is when it's not accessible, how can everybody enjoy it?
For us to reconnect with our own lands as Indigenous people or people of Indigenous descent is probably the most healing thing we can do for ourselves.
The legacy that the natural areas leaves, I think, for the future is amazing because it combines some of the necessities of finding ways for wildlife to live and thrive in the area along with people.
Really just making an intention to seek the voices that haven't been represented, making sure that we get the full story of the land, because we just have such a partial understanding of everything that happened here.
One of my key lessons after being injured 4 years ago is we need to be able to get outside. We need to have fresh air and open space to be healthy people. It's getting out to an area where I can easily get to a nice view, where I can roll my wheelchair, where I can see the buffalo, see the eagles, see the birds. That's the part that makes me whole.
That's great. I know we all enjoy our natural areas, and they turned 30 years old this year with a dedicated sales tax. That's a serious outward expression and financial commitment from our community to something that we really hold dear. Over the last 3 decades, Fort Collins has conserved 58,000 acres and has 52 natural areas. One of the things that we're really engaged in now is embarking on the community discussions of what the future land use will be of the past Hughes property, with as a result of a 2021 ballot initiative. We're still working to acquire that property. We're almost there. We're going to continue to ask the community how best we'd like to use that land. Staying well within the ballot language, that said, to use said property for parks, recreation, and open lands, natural areas, wildlife rescue, and restoration. So within that caveat of the ballot language, we hope you'll all pitch in and help us decide the best way to use that land for everyone.
Yeah, we know there are a lot of differing opinions about that, and that's why our community engagement efforts are really so important. And as we think about our outdoor recreation spaces, last year we also celebrated a resurgence of use of our indoor spaces. So we're happy to be back at the Lincoln Center tonight. Last year the Lincoln Center hosted 610 events and had almost 110,000 attendees through the doors. So that is a big celebration, right, Jim? Similarly, our recreation programs and facilities had about 1 million visitors last year. The gardens on Spring Creek, about 70,000. So just so many people. The reason we share this is because it just really shares how much people love some of these services and how treasured they are and what an important part of our community life. I'm looking at parks. We opened Traverse Park in the northeast part of town, so there are a lot of fun milestones that we celebrated last year related to our parks and open spaces, culture, and recreation.
Right? Keeping all of that beautiful is our wonderful tree canopy. And it's really neat to think about how that is so meaningful to our health and well-being in Fort Collins. We have over 57,000 trees in Fort Collins, and we're working to catch up with tree replacement, and we're catching it. Maintenance also includes pruning of 11,000 trees a year, and we're aggressively treating for the emerald ash borer. We have something called the Community Canopy Program, and last year they sold 1,000 trees at the reduced rate of $25 a tree. And the previous year was only sold 350 trees. So people want trees, they're using trees, we love our trees. And we're proud to be a Tree City USA for the past 44 years.
So we're not expecting you to do trivia later to see if you're catching all of these statistics. But because it's the 150 years of municipal services, we did really want to spend some time talking a little bit about what those services are in our community, and particularly some of our core services that are those 24/7, 365 services that occur in a community. One of those we know is police services, and certainly the policing industry is one that is receiving a lot of, rightfully so, attention just in an ongoing basis. And here in Fort Collins, we too are evolving our police services. Our police chief, Jeff Swoboda, I think is really doing a great job of leading that agency in saying, what are the needs of our community? And we don't want to be the ones setting sort of those service expectations. We want to hear from the community. One of the areas where there has been increasing need is in the space of mental health responses. And so we're really pleased that we have a mental health response team done in partnership with UC Health. We expanded that team last year to add 3 clinicians, 2 more officers, and a sergeant, which gives us the ability now to have 7-day-a-week daily coverage with our mental health response team. And last year, yeah, it's great. Last year, that team responded to over 2,500 calls, and we know that demand there is going to continue to grow.
I can't say enough about our police services and how progressive and open-minded they are to keep us all safe and act as real community servants. And one of the really innovative things that's dear to my heart, and I might actually cry, is there's something called the Vitals app in Fort Collins now, where individuals or caregivers can create profiles for loved ones with a disability or a mental health issue. And that information is then shared with dispatch. So if that individual calls in to 911 or somebody calls in on their behalf, the people responding know how to best help that individual when they go into a situation. And as the parent of an adult child with a disability, that just means so much to me to know if he called in, he would be cared for given his special needs. So thank you, Chief, and the rest of your team for that.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing that personal story, because it is about human lives, right, that we're serving here. And part of what's really important is how we're then training and equipping our officers. And so we have our own police academy now that we launched a couple years ago. We've had 32 cadets graduate from there. We have 9 who are in progress so far. And the reason that that is so important is because, again, it's allowing us to train officers to start with an empathy and peace officer mindset and not needing to bring people in and retrain. This is a highly regarded academy in the state already. The Attorney General is using it as a model for others. We have, again, outside people who are validating that and who are ensuring the accountability in that program. And we're just really, again, proud to have that program. We also are looking at sort of regional cooperation and what's happening, and we're seeing our agency is also becoming a pipeline for others in the region. And so one of the things that we celebrated this year was that we have 2 of our assistant chiefs who are now leading other regional agencies. John Fayen was elected as the sheriff, and Tim Duran went to be the chief in Loveland. And so again, that regional cooperation and regional ethic is something that we think will serve us all well.
We sure hate to have them leave us, but we know they'll be close by and really planning for the whole county as a whole, public safety. So that feels good too. Last year, our Poudre Fire Authority also launched their own academy and trained the largest class ever. Of note, 9% of Poudre Fire Authority firefighters are female, which is nearly double the national average of females serving.
Woo! And we're going to break double digits, right, Chief? We're working on it.
Part of their training is in wildfire management, because 1 year ago we saw the horrible devastation and destruction of the Marshall Fire in Boulder County. I mean, who would have thought X amount of years ago that we would have urban wildfire? But PFA's on it, and they're working closely with regional partners, and they are prepared for the urban wildfire. They're also creating a community wildfire protection plan. And then one of the really nice things they do is when they respond to wildfires across the country, so when other communities are in need, we're there to help.
All right, so a few more core services. By 1887, which was just 14 years after the city was incorporated, we had an electric system and a water system built out. And today, our electric reliability is 99.9958% reliable. A big part of that is due to the really foresight that our predecessors had in doing underground utilities, and also to the reliability that we have from Platte River Power Authority and from utilities distribution. So that's something we're celebrating. And we all know also that we have some of the best drinking water in the nation. So we're all blessed to have that as well.
So in addition to power, light, and water utilities, the voters of Fort Collins voted 3 times to ask the city to please provide public broadband, which is a big, heavy lift, and public broadband is not easy. It is called Connection. It's been providing service over the past 3 years. And luckily, I just got it last week. They've laid,
And I'm still waiting.
fine. That's fine. The full build out should be at the end of Q1. But so far, they have done an impressive 680 miles of fiber installed, and 13,000 customers, residential and commercial, with a 32% take rate. And that means where Connections is available, 30% of the people opt in. So you may have heard of some of the hurdles that this has faced, but we knew this wasn't going to be easy. In fact, I was at a national conference and someone said, "You're nuts." I said, "Well, that's Fort Collins. We do big things, we take big risks, we look to the future, and we know it's going to pay off." So we've had to go through a national installer shortage. We have increased supply costs, like many of you in your work, home, business. We knew this was going to be hard, but we don't mind. We're going to keep going, and we take on hard things. So an issue of this size is not unusual to hit some road bumps, and we're working to find solutions and deliver to the promise of our community. One of the things, circling back to that equity piece that we were talking about earlier, and I find this just to be, I get to brag about it in national mayors conferences all the time. Not only are we offering a reduced rate for customers who can't afford the full rate, but the key to that is we're giving them the same level of service that we give everybody. So just because you can't pay the full rate doesn't mean you get a reduced service. That would just promote inequality in our community instead of close that gap. So you still get a gigabyte up and a gigabyte down. And that's unusual and extremely important in our equity work in school, kids doing projects, and some of our businesses and everything else. And I'm just always proud to mention that when I'm out and about talking. And just in case you didn't know, now you do.
It is one of those services we talk about, again, people who had the foresight to think about future-proofing our community, and we see Connection as being a place that's future-proofing. And when we think about our other city services, we're ensuring and wanting to ensure that we have foresight in those as well. So again, if you think about some of our main systems, our transportation system, our first traffic signal back in 1925 at College and Mountain Avenue. I doubt that any of us were here at that point in time, but now today, fast forward, we're maintaining nearly 2,000 miles of lanes in the city. In 1906, transportation was a streetcar system. In 1974, transport came into play. Last year, in 2022, we had 2 battery-operated buses, and our goal is that 21% of our transport fleet is going to be battery electric by 2025, so that's just around the corner. We are electrifying other parts of our city's fleet as well. One of those is the street sweeper. I think, Mayor, you got a ride on the first electric street sweeper last year?
I didn't. And that was great, but just on a personal note, I was here in 1974. I was 10 years old. Now you know how old I am, that's fine. And I think it was one of the first customers on Transport, the little diesel Mercedes bus that came right down West Elizabeth Street. And sorry, Mom, but it was super fun going to the mall without you. It was a real freedom. And that's just a good memory to grow up with that, and then to have the pleasure of cutting the ribbon on the first electric bus was super, super fun. Last year, the city also completed the Linden Street renovation, which is an extension of our beloved Old Town area, and it's now a convertible street, which we really will be used to build community and host great events. So that's sort of the part of the constant evolution of downtown. We know this benefits the businesses in Old Town and surrounding areas in the long term, but we're going to acknowledge that the short term was challenging. We're coming out of the pandemic, and then all of a sudden the streets torn up. So in response to that, we've also hired a new capital project business liaison to support businesses in case you have extensive renovation or repairs in front of your business.
We're taking those lessons and applying what we've learned as we move forward and supporting in new ways. We also have been leveraging the American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA dollars you have heard. Again, this is really, I think, probably kind of a once in a, once in a career opportunity, I don't know what you would call it, but once in a community to really leverage the dollars that are available as we've come out of the pandemic and being very intentional about those investments. So the city of Fort Collins had $28.1 million allocated so far to 66 different programs. And our council, mayor have really wanted to ensure that those were getting directly into the hands of residents and businesses who needed them. And so the majority has gone to community and economic support, things like rent assistance, childcare support, learning loss, filling some of those needs. We've also done $820,000 in economic grants directly to our local businesses that our Economic Health Office has awarded, and we know that those are having meaningful impact. One of the newer programs that we have launched using these ARPA dollars is actually a multicultural business and entrepreneur center. The purpose of that is to provide free bilingual services to connect people with resources, with training and mentorship. And we're really hearing some very early wins and great response from that program.
Certainly those one-time dollars really did jumpstart us out of the pandemic, so we're very grateful. That's just a year ago when we were talking about, I think we used the butterfly as the sort of the symbol to come out of the pandemic and sort of an emergence. And now we're kind of more in this phase where we're going into resilience, right? So we're not gonna just go back to normal, but we're gonna build back better and we're gonna bounce forward. So building our community also relies heavily on our partnerships. And right now we're gonna focus on our business community with a little clip.
Vortic, I think, is a Fort Collins success story. We launched on Kickstarter, the crowdfunding website, in November of 2014 from our condo that's on Timberline and Drake. We filmed the Kickstarter video in our garage and hand-assembled most of the first 100 watches in the basement. We moved from there to the Rocky Mountain Innisphere for our first office, and then we were stoked when we finally got our first retail space in Jessup Farm. And now we own the building, the land underneath us, and we own a historic piece of downtown Fort Collins right here on Linden and Jefferson.
Frida Azul is a gift shop in the Oak Street Mall in downtown Fort Collins. It is a little piece of Mexico, a cultural gift shop, and I proudly carry handmade works of art made by indigenous artisans of Mexico and other Latin American countries, also Latinx brands and women-owned brands. It can be hard at times being a new business, and it takes some time to establish a customer base. The community here has encouraged me and shown me a lot of support.
The last 2 years have really been the hardest of my career and really everybody in the business. And just to see what's truly possible when you pull together as a team, in spite of this at times insurmountable challenges with just the sheer number of patients or the regulations and guidance with the CDC and everything else, it's been a real challenge. But I think the primary thing around the mission of providing excellent healthcare is nailed down. But you also want a healthcare operator that can operate efficiently to better serve future needs in the community.
La ciudad de Fort Collins me ayudó de una manera increíble. Estoy muy agradecida con la ciudad de Fort Collins porque sin ellos creo que no hubiera sido imposible, pero sí muy difícil para mí lograrlo. Creo que generar más trabajos para la comunidad hispana, más representación, más trabajadores, más personas que representen a la ciudad es muy necesario. Fort Collins va en muy buen camino en términos de representación, pero necesitamos aún más.
Staying in Fort Collins through the founding of TIL is something that was really important to me. It has come with some challenges, up until the point of I've had investors tell me they specifically won't invest in my company unless I relocate to Boulder or Denver. And that has just fueled my fire. And I believe that successful startups should come out of Fort Collins And I'm very proud of that. And the city is so open to hearing other ideas of what the city can potentially try to create this to be more compelling. Fort Collins has so much going for it in so many ways that this, I think, really in my bones is an emerging competitive differentiator as well. This is home.
It's really impossible to thank everyone that makes our community go, but we just want to give a shout out to the public, the private sector, and also our nonprofit sector for making a very stable community.
Her last line of "This is home" really resonates with me, and hopefully it resonates with all of you as well. And we know that as a community, we are also at an inflection point, and we're in this post-pandemic reality. And we're moving from recovery to resilience, and we want to be very intentional about that work and how that looks. And we know that conversations around the land use code are related to that. And so, Mayor, should we tackle it?
Heck yeah.
Okay.
So recent and red hot said that at the beginning. So this is one of the really hot topics that we have in front of us, right? So in some respects, the land code reform has been in the making for years, right? It rests on the implementation of the visionary documents that have come before, including City Plan, Housing Strategic Plan, Active Modes Plan, and Our Climate Future. The council adopted the new code on November 1st, and after a successful grassroots petition to either repeal or refer it to the voters, on January 17th, the council opted to repeal the code and engage in a much deeper community conversation. I really honor that process, that democratic process, and look forward to the future discussions about how the built environment reflects the values and the visions of our community. And I hope that you all stay engaged because it's really important work. It is going to be the outward expression of these values, right? So this is a great chance to reset and continue the work because we have other things coming up that we're going to talk about that will also require your intentional participation. And you know what? I'm just positive that when Fort Collins gets together, we can come up with something quite remarkable.
We do know we have other big conversations ahead and other policy decisions. So one big one coming to City Council in the next few months is trash contracting. We are in the final stages right now of a competitive process for that. Council will be considering at the end of Q1 a draft contract and code changes. If that is approved, it would not be implemented until the end of 2024 because a program of that magnitude takes some time to operationalize. Again, sort of important, I think, to just reset in why we're having this conversation and some of the environmental goals that council came in, reducing emissions due to fewer trucks on the road. It also supports our street maintenance by having fewer trucks on the road, increasing recycling and yard trimming diversion rates, and also, again, customer service and a theme that you're hearing through tonight around equitable and cost-effective pricing. So that's part of what's driving that conversation.
Right, and it's a great lead into the conversation about our climate goals, which are quite aggressive. In 2021, the data showed that our community-wide greenhouse gas emissions inventory was reduced 24% 2005 levels. In a growing community, that's quite impressive. We have a roadmap for action, including interim climate goals from 2026 to be 50% reduction of our greenhouse goals, reduction from 2005 levels, with the ultimate goal of being carbon neutral by 2050. We are moving. But this won't come without intentionality and effort at the individual, policy, and collective levels. Platte River Power Authority has set a goal of 100% non-carbon energy by 2030. It's only one of 2 publicly owned power authorities in the United States that has this aggressive of a goal.
As we talk about environmental goals, there are a couple areas, one challenge we just wanted to highlight and one really great success. So we know air quality continues to be something that needs attention. We are a region that's in a severe ozone non-attainment area and unfortunately regularly exceed those EPA standards. There are new grants that we have received, 2 recent EPA grants, where we're going to be focusing first on monitoring to get better data, and then also intervention. And so again, that is done in partnership with the county and the city because we know that that's a regional issue and one we want to address. The big celebration is in the space of plastic bags. So we ended the use of city bags last year, and it expanded statewide last month, but our community adopted this so quickly. We have had an 85% reduction in carry-out bags. Yeah, which is great. This happened so much faster than we anticipated. We're actually down the revenue that we expected to collect. We're down by $350,000 because people have adopted so quickly. But again, that's a really good thing. And all of that revenue would have gone right back into educating people and helping support the program. So in probably the only case where we're going to say being that far under budget, we take as a big win and celebration.
That's right. When Fort Collins is asked to do something, we deliver. I think a year ago we asked for voluntary water restrictions because we had the Horsetooth was getting drained. We had to do some needed repairs, and absolutely every single person responded. And this also just makes us smile when the plastic bags, response is so strong, and we appreciate that. Some of the things that we're going to be asking for us to come together and to pursue is our climate goals. As our climate changes and we continue to grow as a community and as a region, we need to think more regionally, particularly when it comes to water and transportation. So 2023 and beyond will bring some hard and important conversations around the pragmatic realities of how to meet growing demands with limited resources, natural and economic, all the while meeting our stated goals. So we're counting on you for that as well.
And we do know that Fort Collins is not alone in having these conversations. Again, certainly they impact us locally and regionally, but we know that people across the country are wrestling with some of these same things. And last year, we had the opportunity, the mayor and I and some others, to participate in a year-long program sponsored by the German Marshall Fund called Cities Fortifying Democracy. And it was really about, again, the importance of democracy at a municipal level and how we not only preserve, but really foster and further enhance democracy at the local level.
So I'm going to brag on the city a little because I don't work here, I work for you. But the city was chosen out of 12 cities internationally, 6 from the United States and 6 internationally. And they asked 4 people from the city to participate, the mayors, the city managers, the head of our community safety, that's Chief Swoboda, and our city clerk. And so that was important because they wanted to cover all those areas. So people, the 12 cities had all 4 representatives, and we worked in our respective cohorts over the course of a year on ideas of democracy and community engagement and these sorts of things. Then the German Marshall Fund very generously brought us all together last year in Berlin for a big conference of the cities where we could in person share. And I think we had some great takeaways for that.
We did. One of the things that stood out most to me was really about, again, the importance of engaging our youth. And I think we've been talking about how do we do that more in our organization. Minneapolis was actually a city that had a great strategic plan around youth engagement specifically. And so that is, again, part of what we're talking about. And we've already started some of this work. One of the programs that was launched last year was Next Gen Serve, and we want to show you a few highlights.
We see our youth as the talent pipeline into the organization. And so we're really thinking into the future about how we might encourage the next generation to come work in local government. When I asked them what they were excited about to do with local government, most of them said, I didn't know I was volunteering for local government. So we had to really educate them on the wide variety of jobs all over the city that help make this community run. and educate them how volunteers contribute to that overall goal of engaging the community. They found a home here, they found a group, they found their people, they did something meaningful, they got to learn about volunteering, they got to learn about different types of jobs, and most of them have said they're interested in coming back next year and taking a leadership role. So we have a wonderful partnership with CSU in that we're able to offer internships for CSU students all over the city.
I am an unpaid intern through CSU. I am in the Human Development and Family Studies department, and I'm going to be a senior at CSU next year. And oh my gosh, the coolest thing I've gotten to do this summer has just been Next Gen. I never really learned about local government, so I'm learning just as much as these teens are learning. I have had so much fun. Just learning about the city has been so awesome, so amazing, and I'm so thankful that I had the opportunity to do this. It's really awesome that Next Gen is a thing for teens from 12 to 18 to kind of discover different jobs and start thinking about what they want to do.
The City of Fort Collins has a 38% volunteerism rate. That means that 38% of our residents volunteer. Over 10,000 people volunteer each year, and the time they donate equates to almost 73 full-time employees and equates to a $4 million impact on the city. So as you can see, there are many of our programs that wouldn't run without the power of volunteers.
So I agree. It's really awesome that Next Gen Serve is a thing. And it's also really wonderful the entire amount of volunteers that we have in the city organization. And we are just so grateful. In the video, you heard Sue talk about the number of volunteers and the number of FTEs that equates to for us as a city organization. And it really is meaningful and impactful. People in this community give in so many ways, and one of the programs that we just want to highlight is City Give, because in addition to their time and talent, we also have community members who are giving generously to donate funds or property, things that really, again, enhance our city. And in 2022, again, this is to the city, to city services. Donors gave more than $1.5 million to support programs like our trees, like juvenile diversion, our arts and culture, the Veterans Memorial. We could go on and on with the way, again, that our community is stepping up. And we're just so grateful for that and for the way that everyone comes together. We wouldn't be who we are if it weren't for all of you. Yes, thank you. That's our council members thanking you all. I also do want to just pause quickly and say we also couldn't do this without all of our city employees and the 2,400 city colleagues that I have the privilege to work with. So I want to thank, tonight we have many of our executive team members here, so thank you to our executive leadership team, to all of the city, just again, colleagues who show up day in and day out and really give so much of yourselves to this place. I'm very, very grateful for all that you do. And I would be remiss if we didn't take just a moment and pause. It was 1 week ago today that we had a really tragic employee fatality. And so just want to take a moment and acknowledge that. And again, thank everyone who has come together to support our organization and our teams in what's been a very difficult time, and ask that you just continue to offer your love and support to Jason's family and friends, and to really everyone who is impacted by this horrific tragedy.
I've said it before, and I'm going to keep saying it. Fort Collins is a community that cares, and we turn out. We have a continued commitment to civic engagement, co-creation of our community, and civil discourse. I do a lot of work in civil discourse before I was the mayor, and hopefully for the rest of my life I'm committed to this. at the legislature, I was part of something called the National Institute of Civil Discourse, when we travel around the states with a person of the other political party to deliver workshops to other legislatures. Since then, I've been on several advisory boards about civility and those sorts of things. The work here at the city continues, right? So people ask me a lot, like, what's the silver bullet? What do you mean? How are we going to do this? And I think they're kind of looking for the secret sauce, or that I might have some answer. And the answer is a hard one, right? Because there isn't a silver bullet and there isn't a secret sauce. It's noticing, and it's slowing down. It's looking around to see your fellow community member. And luckily in Fort Collins, it's so amazing. If you slow down and watch, you really see it. So I want to thank Brian Kingsley for opening the tracks so that we can use them. And I was running the other day up at the Poudre High School track, and there was one other runner there going around and around. And before she left, she stopped. No audience, no selfie, no video, just picking up trash all the way out, right? I've seen city workers on their day off. I live across from the lake. I said, what are you doing? It's a holiday. Oh, I just thought if we got up here and made the ice like extra smooth, and we know the kids have the day off, that they could really enjoy the day on the ice, right? You see it in your neighbor. My neighbor brings my trash in. He's like, oh, I know it was a council night, so there's no way you're getting up for that. You know, if you slow down and look, I had a pastor in my office the other day just to establish a personal connection, and he said he was at a diner the other day, and his server looked like she was in distress, and so he just took a moment and he said, are you okay? And she burst into tears. So it's looking at people and seeing them and offering a hand. So I just think that we have this in Fort Collins, and we're working really hard to continue that, because 150 years of little things can really add up to one great community. So I'm going to end my little part tonight with a quote that I love from David Brooks, if you won't mind. He's a columnist that many of you have heard of, but this sticks with me, and I think Kelly's tired of hearing it, but I will say this. My general view is that the fate of America will be importantly determined by how we treat each other in the smallest acts of daily life. This means being a genius at the close at hand, greeting a stranger, detecting anxiety in someone's voice, and asking what's wrong, and also knowing how to talk across difference. So I'm going to leave you with an ask, and my call to you is spend 2023 becoming a genius at the close at hand. Go to ask your neighbor for dinner, help somebody out, let them cut in line, do those little things that really build community and help in our civility.
Mayor, yes. I won't ever get tired of hearing that quote, because it really is it's just such a great call to action for all of us. And I think it's the perfect way to end this evening. We, again, want to really spend time in community. This is part about the state of the city, but it's mostly about the community. And so while tonight we celebrated 150 years of municipal services, again, what we're celebrating is 150 years of people coming together and making Fort Collins Fort Collins. And so while we wrap up, we want you to stay around, join us. We're going to transition over to the Columbine Room, where you will find yummy food and snacks, an open bar, not open, cash bar, let me be clear. Oh, sorry, wait. I really was going to make it a great night. A cash bar. You will also find, have to do something. You will also find some great activities over there. We really want to hear your stories. And if you look around at the, just again, the 150-year materials, the last group that I want to thank tonight is our Communication and Public Involvement Office, who helped put all of this together. Will you join me in doing a quick thank you to them? Thank you, CPIO team. You do amazing work. So with that, I think we're going to wrap up and, again, invite people to stick around and just spend time being in community and practicing being good at the up close.
Yep. Thanks for coming out tonight.
All right. Good night, Fort Collins.
Wait. Ready? 1, 2, 3.
Good night, Fort Collins.